Okay, this problem is one of our familiar, unfamiliar prompts. We want to present Tan's research, so we want to kind of identify what his research is and present it to an audience unfamiliar with Angkor Wat. So that's who we want to be unfamiliar with. So let's go ahead and read it. We're probably going to outline the initial background information about Angkor Wat. Cambodia's Angkor Wat was built in the 1100s to honor Hindu god Vishnu. So I guess it's a place, not a person. It has been a Buddhist temple since the 16th century. So this is background information on Angkor Wat. So if people are unfamiliar with it, we're going to have to include those 2 bullet points information in the answer choice. Decorrelation stretch analysis is a novel digital imaging technique that enhances the contrast between colors in a photograph. So this is background on some type of technology of imaging. Archaeologist Noel Hidalgo Tan applied the decoloration stretch analysis to photographs he had taken of Angkor Wat's plaster walls. Tan's analysis, so that's our method and the study. Tan's analysis revealed hundreds of images unknown to researchers. So that was the results. Okay, we probably don't want that latter information in our answer choice. Let's take a look at the different options. Tan photographed Angkor Wat's plaster walls and then applied decorrelation stretch analysis to the photographs. Okay, that says nothing about Angkor Wat and telling anybody who's unfamiliar with it the background information from the 2 bullet points. This is not the correct answer. Decorrelation stretch analysis is a novel digital imaging technique that's used to enhance the okay, this is nothing about the background information of Angkor Wat, the 2 first bullet points. Using a novel digital imaging technique, Tan revealed hundreds of images hidden on the walls of Angkor Wat, a Cambodian temple. Okay, this is telling us what Angkor Wat is. It's a Cambodian temple, and it is describing or presenting his research here. So this looks pretty good. Let's just check D. Built to honor a Hindu god before becoming a Buddhist temple, Cambodia's Angkor Wat concealed hundreds of images on its plaster walls. So this is just about Angkor Wat. This says nothing about presenting Tan's research. There's no indication of Tan's research here. So that part is missing. That can't be the right answer. C is correct. Okay, in this rhetorical synthesis prompt, the student wants to make and support a generalization. So we have a generalization prompt. We want to identify exactly what we want to generalize about Knesologist's definition of an island. Okay, so let's take a look at the text. Knesologists are scientists who study islands. Didn't know that. Good to know. Some knesologists define an island as any piece of land surrounded by water. Using that definition, they determine that Sweden has 221,000 islands. Other knesologists define an island as being 1 kilometer square, a certain distance from the mainland, and having at least 50 permanent residents. Using that definition, they determine that Sweden has 24 islands. Okay, so it looks like the knesologist's definition of an island determines how many islands there are, and that can vary depending on the definition. That's the generalization I get from this. Let's see which answer choices include that detail. The definition of an island is any piece of land surrounded by water supported by some knesologists, scientists who study islands. No, that says nothing about the generalization we want, so that's not the right answer. Multiple counts of Sweden's islands have been based on different definitions of an island. That's exactly correct. We have examples of different counts for the same country based on different definitions. That's the correct generalization from the bullet points. Based on a recent count, Sweden has a relatively small number of islands with at least 50 permanent residents. That says nothing about the 2 different accounts and the generalization of the definitions. So that's only one of the bullet points and not the correct one. That's also wrong. Knesologists' different definitions can result in huge disparities in counts of islands, as the example of Sweden shows. This is a much better answer. Notice, and I didn't pick up on this in the first go, B talks about counts of Sweden's islands. That's not a generalization, which is what we want to do here. This is too specific. I missed that while I was going through it the first time. The correct answer will always show a generalization independent of the specific examples in the bullet points, and then cite those examples help support that generalization. That's exactly what D does. Okay, this question is going to be a generalization prompt. We want to generalize some of the specific examples in the bullet points. And let's identify first what to generalize. The orbits of the comets. So we want to generalize something about the orbits of the comets specifically. So now we can read the bullet point text. Astronomers estimate that the number of comets orbiting the sun is in the billions. So that tells us some background information of the number of comets out there. 81P Wild is one of many comets whose orbit has changed over time. So this is kind of something that happens with a comet. It's a general statement. Well, 81P's orbit once lay between the orbits of Uranus and Jupiter. So, okay. And the comet's orbit is now positioned between the orbits of Jupiter and Mars. So these are examples of the change over time in the bullet point above here. So the correct answer is probably going to be the bullet point, the change of orbits over time, and that's supported by the example of 81P Wild. Let's look for that among our answer choices. D, a comet's orbit around the sun may change over time. That's a general statement. That meets our condition about the orbits of the comets, the generalization. And the orbit, the example is denoted by the colon. The orbit of 81P Wild once lay between Uranus and Jupiter, and now it's changed. The examples from this next two bullet points show that. This is your answer. Let's check A, B, and C. Astronomers estimate the number of comets orbiting the sun isn't the number. It's not a generalization about the number. We want a generalization about the orbits of the comets. So that's not correct. Okay. The fact that they may change over time, that's correct, but the first part is not. Like Uranus, Jupiter, Mars, billions of comets orbit the sun. Okay, it doesn't matter that planets and comets orbit the sun. That is a generalization or a similarity, but that is not what's outlined in the bullet points. That's not the main idea here. So that's not going to be the right answer. C, one example of a comet is 81P Wild, whose orbit around the sun once lay between Uranus and Jupiter's, but is now, okay, these are the examples, but it is not the generalization. So that's too specific. It's not right.